What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. You got your Google and Alexa home devices. Stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Or on the, you can watch the video stream as well, which is up and rolling. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit up a brand new work week this week. Appreciate you making us a part of your start on this Monday morning. What do we got on the quick rundown here, the quick game plan here? Well, there were two. After yesterday's NFC and AFC championship games, it's the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs back in the Super Bowl after defeating the top-seeded Baltimore Ravens yesterday 17-10. And then last night, 49ers crushing the hopes and dreams of so many Detroit Lions fans. When it looked like the Lions were in complete control, they were in complete control for a half of football, the first half of football. But at that second half, the 49ers able to come back and capitalize on some mistakes and pick up the 34-31 victory to get back to the Super Bowl. So we get a rematch from a couple of years ago for Super Bowl 58. It's the Chiefs versus the 49ers. There you have it. Now it's less than 2 weeks away from the big game, from the Super Bowl there. So there you got it. Season's almost over with, believe it or not. Football season's almost over with. And we get a rematch from a couple. It is. I was trying to, watching both of these games this yesterday and such, and didn't really have a rooting interest for either. I just wanted some good games. You know what I mean? I wanted some good games between the two, and we got it in that drama one last night, I guess, at least in the second half. And Kansas City and Baltimore. I mean, Kansas City was just kind of letting Baltimore hang around there for a little bit and such, but it is what it is. Didn't really have any rooting interest in either team. So here we are. Speaking of football, we will get you the latest on the Packers defensive coordinator search. Got some names being floated out there. Apparently names that have already interviewed for the Pack. One name you may know. Otherwise, maybe some names you probably didn't recognize, didn't know. Haven't really been talked a whole lot about as a potential candidate. And that's usually what happens with these coordinator searches. We know some of the names out there. And when we get to that point, we kind of throw out our wish list. We kind of throw out, names that we know. But there's other names that coaches and around league circles, they know as well. Maybe we're not too familiar with them, but they got a good idea on them. So the one Brandon Staley, the former Chargers head coach, former defensive coordinator for the Rams when they won their Super Bowl, he has reportedly interviewed for the job. Christian Parker, who was a former quality control assistant for the Packers a few years ago, is now this past year was defensive backs coach for the Denver Broncos. According to many across the league, is a rising star in the coaching profession at the young age of about 32, I think it was 32, 33 years old. He has also interviewed Aiden Durd from the Dallas Cowboys, defensive line coach. Bobby Babick, linebackers coach from the Buffalo Bills. Those are names right now that have reportedly been or have interviewed for the Packers defensive coordinator job right now. So we all know Brandon Staley. The other ones you probably don't know a whole lot about, but that's where we're at right now in terms of that Packers defensive coordinator search. That doesn't mean that those are the only candidates that Matt LaFleur has interviewed. Could be some that have flown a little bit under the radar. Maybe nobody knows about. Maybe it has been reported, hasn't been leaked or anything like that. But maybe this week we'll find out who the next Packers defensive coordinator is. Possibly. I would imagine maybe this week too we'll find out the final two head coaches with who's going to get the Washington job and the Seattle job now with Baltimore and Detroit out of the mix here, unless one of those teams has somebody eyeing up somebody from the 49ers or the Chiefs, but it doesn't seem like it. Again, could be caught off guard, could be surprised one way or the other, but that's kind of where it's at. Speaking of the Pack, we'll continue our consulting series a little bit later on. We're going to take a look at the offensive line. I want to take a look at the offensive line. I think, Zach Tom's probably maybe the best performance from the offensive line or an offensive lineman from the Packers this year. He's got that right tackle spot nailed down. Got Elton Jenkins, Pro Bowl guard over there. And let's take a look at left tackle, center, and right guard. John Runyon Jr., free agent, was kind of splitting some time with Sean Ryan. Josh Myers had his best season, but is it still a great season, a good season? Do they still need to upgrade at that center position? And then left tackle with Rasheed Walker. Has he done enough to earn the long-time starting spot over there? I know Matt LaFleur didn't necessarily shut the door on the return of David Bakhtiari, but I think we all know the writing's kind of on the wall at that point. So we'll hit that up a little bit later on. Bucks begin their 5-game road trip, and we are going to see the debut of one Doc Rivers on the sideline. Bucks finally making it officially official over the weekend, announcing Doc Rivers as their new head coach. And he had a presser, talked to the media a little bit on Saturday before he was out on the court, talking to the Marquette Nation over there. But Doc Rivers knows what's at stake here, knows the expectations, knows what he has to do, what's on the line here. I think one of the quotes that I loved from Doc Rivers when he was talking to the media on Saturday, that we just have to find our identity. If you're going to have fear the deer, you got to fear the deer. Love that. Loved that quote there. Doc also said he had been contacted by multiple teams this season about potentially coaching this season, but he wasn't going to take any job. It needed to be the right situation and the right opportunity. And obviously he thought the Bucks were that, with roster and expectations and all that stuff. So we'll get our first glimpse, it sounds like, with Doc on the sidelines tonight as the Bucks begin their 5-game road trip. And it's a tough one, going up against Denver tonight. So the Bucks taking on Denver in Denver. Wednesday's Portland. You got Saturday against Dallas, Sunday against Utah, then next Tuesday's Phoenix before the Bucks return home for 4 games. Then we get getting closer to that trade deadline too. So could we start to hear some more rumors, some potential other moves out there? I think never say never, even though it might be incredibly difficult considering money and what they have to trade assets and such. It might be incredibly difficult for the Bucks to make a move. But I think from what we've seen from John Horst, the general manager, and this ownership group over the years, never say never. Never say never with this group. If they can find a way, they seem to have found ways a few other times over there. So, speaking of hoops, Badger basketball picking up the W last Friday night against Michigan State, sweeping the regular season series against Michigan State. How about that? 81-66. 81-66. AJ Storr is such a stud. Another awesome, dominating performance from him from the transfer. 28 points for AJ Storr in that game. 28 points. Badgers' next game is going to be Nebraska on Thursday before that big time game between Purdue and Wisconsin, the Kohl Center, Sunday. Going to be a huge game. Huge game. Marquette also picking up the W as well. So should get the latest rankings. We'll see if there's any movement out there. Illinois losing again. You got Kansas losing again. Could Wisconsin maybe sneak into the top 10 with some of the losses inside the top 10 there? Could they potentially squeak on in? We shall see a little bit later on. So I believe we'll be catching up with Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire, a little bit later on. Big time prep hockey win for Eau Claire Memorial boys hockey, taking down the number one ranked team in the state, Stevens Point, on Saturday, 5-1. Justice was there, checking out that game and covering that game. So once Justice joins us here, we'll take a look at that and recap it and recap some of the other stuff that's going on the local side, prep and collegiate wise. So I know Blue Gold basketball this weekend struggling against Whitewater, but Whitewater, you're talking about two top 25 teams in the country. Women's side, Whitewater, number 4 ranked team in the country. Men's number 21. So, but we'll recap all that with the expert at hand, Mr. Justice Cleveland. It is Studs and Duds Monday. That texting line is always rolling, the Shoe Doctors texting line. So hit us up with your studs and duds. Who do you got? Okay. Text us 715 830 1912. 715 830 1912. All right. There's kind of your game plan for this morning. Let's begin things coming up here on the leadoff. Talk a little football here. Recap championship Sunday yesterday. We got Chiefs and the 49ers again. Rematch from a few years ago in the Super Bowl when Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid won their first one. Sorry, Lions fans. Crushing defeat in the NFC or in the NFC Championship game when it looked like the Lions were going to be in full control of this thing. And considering everybody out on social media talking about Kyle Shanahan's record or Kyle Shanahan's teams, when they can't play from behind or they struggle to play from behind. And well, they took advantage of some miscues yesterday and they got the job done, made some plays there too. But we got the matchup. We'll hit that up. But we'll give you kind of a breakdown and what the reported names too are being out there for the Packers defensive coordinator position. Is any one of those names that we kind of already mentioned? There's only been a handful. There's only been a handful right now. But any of those names maybe pique your interest. Pique your interest. Any one of those guys. It seems like now again, this just could be what's being floated out there. Seems like Christian Parker is the guy that is getting a little bit more traction out there, a little bit more talk. He's 32. He's a young guy, young dude out there. But between Parker, Brandon Staley, et cetera, any one of those 4 names kind of intrigue you? Unless you're like, dude, that guy I want. Unless there's one of you out there who's like, no, that's the one I want over there. All right, hit me up with those texts. So let's get things going here this morning. We'll begin it off chatting a little football, recapping yesterday's matchups. Got a rematch of the Super Bowl coming up here too, plus defensive coordinator tracking. Looking for that caffeine kick to get you going each morning and throughout the day? Hey, that's easy because you would be looking for Cabot Coffee and Altoona. Whether you are in the mood for coffee, tea, or an iced energy drink, Cabot Coffee has something to help you get going in the mornings and throughout your days. Cabot Coffee also has a breakfast and lunch menu with a wide range of options for you to choose from to help keep you going throughout your day. Don't settle for the low quality drinks and food to fill your energy void. Go for the fresh and high quality at Cabin Coffee because your taste buds and you deserve better. Just there yesterday, grabbing some coffee for a little caffeine kick. We need to get like a little what do you want to call it? A little thing set up in the studio here so we can always have something on tap there. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning on the leadoff. Yesterday, our good friend Tom from across the pond, our resident Lions fan, our diehard Lions fan, Tom, chiming in already on the video stream with us. Everybody go say hi to Tom there. Uh, says, morning, Dan. Dud for yesterday. It has to be the Lions in the second half. We can't give up 27 unanswered points and expect to win the game. Completely ruined the great first half performance. Yeah, no doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. I was thinking about you yesterday, Tom, after watching the game last night, especially in the second half and such. But looking, we'll get to that game here in a second. But kind of going in order here, you had Chiefs and Ravens. Chiefs back in the game, back in the big game, back in the Super Bowl with their 17-10 victory. They started out fast. Baltimore tying it up, and then Chiefs answering there, and finally Baltimore's defense kind of locking down, but give that Chiefs defense a lot of credit, man. They held Lamar Jackson in check. They made things difficult on him. He struggled a little bit. Zay Flowers making a couple boneheaded plays. He had the taunting one after the big catch, which he was able to get it back. And then reaching for the end zone, fumbling, touchback. Would have made things incredibly interesting at that point. And then Lamar Jackson throwing the late pick in the game there too. But Baltimore not able to get over that hump and get back to the Super Bowl, get to Lamar Jackson's first Super Bowl. Travis Kelce just continues to dominate. I mean, how do you sometimes let that guy just have free reign? How do you let 87, big old 87 for the Chiefs just consistently go out there and dominate? I mean, I would think that, I know it's easier said than done at a lot of times, but man, it just seemed like it's like you guys realize who that guy is, right? You realize who Travis Kelce is, right? Maybe try to double team him or do something. I know the Ravens play a lot of zone and such, but man. And then you had Patrick Mahomes, who was just on fire, but give that Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo a lot of credit. And that's a defense that has a lot of young talent on there too. I mean, they won the freaking thing last year, and they had a bunch of rookies on there and second year. I mean, just young talent all across the board. And here they are again this year. A great unit. When you think about the Chiefs, you think about the offense, and you think about Mahomes and Kelce and Andy Reid. But that defense, boy, I think if Steve Spagnuolo probably hadn't had a head coaching try with the Rams, since he interim there for the Giants after Ben McAdoo, he's probably getting a lot of looks at for a head coach, but I think teams probably took him off the radar because, well, he was a one-time head coach for the Rams, whether it's fair or not. He was over there, didn't have success. A lot of people didn't have success with the Rams for the longest time there, but you can't deny what Steve Spagnuolo has done with that group. An impressive job. Absolutely impressive. And it just seemed like that game between the Ravens and the Chiefs, to me, you could just tell the experience, I think, from the Chiefs really stood out. Ravens, some boneheaded plays, boneheaded penalties, maybe being a little too aggressive. Because you heard Romo talking about how Harbaugh had kind of mentioned, we gotta be aggressive and try to get Patrick Mahomes to think twice about running, but not too aggressive to where we're getting flagged. Well, they were a little too aggressive at times, getting the flag there. But it to me, I mean, even Travis Kelce, kind of it seemed like at times, yeah, he was jawing a little bit, but it was almost like he was suckering some of those guys into, getting into a little verbal spats. And then Kelsey just knew just a little bit to back off and maybe force the Ravens to get the penalty there. It just, to me, watching that game and seeing how it was going, you could tell what team had been to the Super Bowl before, has won the Super Bowl before, compared to the team that, was really trying to get over that hump. And when it was a tight game and close game and time was running out, you could see maybe that inexperience starting to rise to the top there a little bit with the Ravens. And then on the flip side, the nightcap, I mean, the Lions, could you start off any better? 14-0 in the house of San Francisco, of the 49ers. And then going into the half, you're feeling pretty darn good. All the analytics and numbers are coming out about how Kyle Shanahan led teams can't, statistically has shown they can't, make those comebacks. They can't. The numbers don't look good for them. And second half was just a tale of two different stories there. 49ers capitalized on a couple of big plays, some mistakes by the Lions, and able to make the comeback and ultimately win the game. I mean, you want to talk about the typical tale of two halves. That should be right there. When you look that up in the dictionary, in the sports dictionary, a tale of two halves, it should be that game. It should be that game. It was Lions first half, 49ers second half. And I know, and Tom, I know hindsight's 2020, but if you're still listening, Tom, hindsight's 2020 and such. But what did you make of Dan Campbell's decision not to go for the field goal to tie it? You got one side saying, I mean, it's how he's coached all season long. Why change? The other side saying there's a certain point, there's a certain time. And at that certain point in time, 49ers were humming, rolling along. You had a chance to tie it. Because if you miss that thing and the 49ers go down there, it's a two possession game. At least if, tie it, 49ers still go down there, it's just going to be a one possession game. But what do you make of the Dan Campbell decision there, Tom? If you're still listening. Tom saying those decisions got us there, so I'm fine with it, but didn't love it in the moment. Yeah, I hear you. Man, and I think, too, when you look at the Lions, there's just a lot of talk about Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, going to be the new Washington head coach. And I think that's going to be a big loss for Detroit. I mean, they got a uber amount of talent on there. They shouldn't be going away anytime soon. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun to watch Packers and the Lions for the next few years in this division. And, depending on what Minnesota does with their quarterback position and such, I mean, you still got Justin Jefferson over there. Addison had a good rookie year too. TJ Hawkins is a really good tight end. So, you got those guys there. But again, depends on their quarterback situation. Chicago, what are they going to do? Are they going to draft Caleb Williams? They really kind of turned it on towards the end there. DJ Moore's over there. So I think this division is going to be interesting to watch here for the next few years here. But Lions, if Ben Johnson does leave, I think that's a big loss for the Lions. And again, they've got a lot of talent over there, but you can kind of connect some of the dots when Ben Johnson took over play calling. What was it, a couple of years ago from Anthony Lynn? Anthony Lynn was the first offensive coordinator for the Lions, and then you had Ben Johnson coming in and overtaking play calling. Then later on, after the season was over with, promoted to the full-time slot of offensive coordinator. You can start to see that change there a little bit. And, you put the right players in position to succeed. For the longest time, it was like, hey, Jared Goff's going to be replaced. He's just kind of a stopgate, fill in there for a little bit till we draft that guy. But Ben Johnson has done a fantastic job with Jared Goff and getting him to play at an incredibly high level. It helps, to have guys like St. Brown and Jamison Williams looks like, finally maybe getting healthy to being a consistent wide receiver over there. You pair him with St. Brown, and you've got Sam Laporta, an incredibly young, talented tight end. Gibbs running the football there, the offensive line. They've rebuilt that thing over there. A lot of really good pieces, but I'll be curious to see if Ben Johnson does leave. Who does Dan Campbell look at to fill in that spot? Because I think that's potentially a big loss. A big loss for the Lions. To have that play caller that just understood how to put his guys, his players in a position to succeed. I'll be curious to see who he's going to put in that role, how he fills that role. I think that's going to be a big one. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Ben Johnson's going to go on and be a great head coach. We don't know that. Some guys are just better at coordinating than they are at head coaches, but he has been so, in my opinion at least, instrumental to that Lions offense, that if he does go and he takes that Washington job, or if Washington offers it to him and he takes it, I think that's going to be a big loss for the Lions and kind of a big-time hire for DC, Motor City, DC, try to figure out and fill in that role over there. But, yeah. There you have it, though. Kansas City versus the 49ers. Early thoughts? Who you got in this game? Who are you going to pick in this game? I'll tell you right now, my first early thoughts, just very generic. I might have to roll with Kansas City. They just seem to be playing a little. I mean, San Francisco digs themselves in a hole. Again, I don't know if they can climb out of that against a team like Kansas City. I don't know if they'd be able to do that. So right now, it's not my official pick. Not my official pick by any means. But if I were to pick a team right now for Super Bowl 58 to win it, I think I got to go Kansas City. All right, let's take a quick break here. Who are the reported candidates for the Packers defensive coordinator position? We'll tell you those names and kind of give you a little bit of a background. And if any of those names kind of, I don't know, trip your trigger a little bit, do they get you a little excited? Or is there one of those guys? Because let's be real. Of the four names that have been reported, and that doesn't necessarily mean these are the only four that have gotten interviews or are going to get interviews. But of these four, the majority of us haven't heard or know too much about 3 out of the 4. Don't know who they are. So I've got to imagine there's going to be a lot of people like, really? Maybe even a little down, maybe even a little frustrated, disappointed in some of the names that have been attached to this Packers defensive coordinator position. But again, that doesn't mean these are the only 4 that have or will interview. But this is what we got to go off of right now. So, with that being said, again, if you missed it a little bit earlier, we'll tell you who they are, give you a little background on them, and does maybe one of these guys intrigue you a little bit? Still have those same aches and pains? How about you do something about it this time? Make your appointment with Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and start living that pain-free and healthy life. That way, when summer rolls around, you'll be able to enjoy those outdoor activities pain-free. Kind of feels like summer, at least spring right now. Getting a little bit warmer this week here too, man. Get started. Get started now by visiting cvosm.com to schedule your appointment. The entire team at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is dedicated to providing you with the care you need to get back to living your life pain-free. Again, visit cvosm.com. Schedule your appointment with Dr. Shepik or his team over there at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. About 15 minutes to the top of the hour here. Again, our resident Lions fan, Tom from across the pond, Ben Johnson, going to the Commanders will be a bigger loss than any player. Lions and Packers will both be both 10-plus win teams next year. I honestly feel like this was our shot. All right. Let's speaking of the pack here, let's kind of give you an update on where this defensive coordinator position search is at right now. Because you started to hear some more names on Friday. Friday and Saturday were kind of the 2 days that you started like, okay, hitting the ground running here. So when we shut the mics off on Friday, news dropped that Brandon Staley had interviewed or was interviewing for the defensive coordinator position for the Packers. That's a name you know. Former Chargers head coach, was the Rams defensive coordinator when they won the Super Bowl. He runs a similar scheme as Joe Barry. So, I mean, if Matt LaFleur is looking for something similar, is a Vic Fangio, worked under Vic Fangio, so he's a Vic Fangio disciple. So if he's looking for something similar to that, Brandon Staley would be an option. However, I think when you look at his Chargers teams, it's safe to say that the defense underwhelmed despite their talent. Now, was that because of his play calls on defense, or was it because being distracted, also being a head coach over there? Could be different, could be either one of those or both of them out there. But to me, Brandon Staley is the name that I feel like a lot of Packers fans, when they hear that as a potential, that might be one of the names that doesn't really get them excited because of what he did with the Chargers as a head coach. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn there, but I feel like that would be a name like, oh, but look what he did with the Chargers and similar stuff to Joe Barry. Do we really want that? Feel like that would be one of the names out there that wouldn't get a whole lot of fans pumped up or excited. Now the other three are three names that initially, if you were reading all the blogs as soon as Joe Barry was fired, I think everybody either had a podcast. We were one of them. I'm not making one of them because I did it too. But you had blogs, you had articles, you had podcasts saying, here's a watch list. I don't think I saw one with any one of these three guys on here. But that doesn't mean that they're like, what the heck is Matt LaFleur doing? Because these guys also got coordinator interviews with other teams too. It's just these weren't very popular names out there. So let's start with Bobby Babich, linebackers coach for the Buffalo Bills. He was a former safeties coach for the Bills. Started off as an assistant defensive backs coach. He is got some lineage. His dad was also a defensive coordinator in Chicago and Jacksonville at the NFL level. So he's got a little bit background there. Doesn't have any coordinating experience. He is not from the Vic Fangio style defensive tree. So you're talking about some new ideas, new philosophy out there. Kind of look at, Buffalo's defense. He's a Sean McDermott. Working under Sean McDermott, right? If you're looking at some of the numbers, the Bills' defense has been ranked in the top 5 for scoring during 4 of the last 5 years. That's one name that's out there. Another name out there, Aiden Durde. He is with the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys defensive line coach since 2021. He was also with the Atlanta Falcons under Dan Quinn, outside linebackers coach, et cetera, et cetera. Now, he is an England-born coach who played in NFL Europe before getting into coaching. He worked, as we mentioned, with Dan Quinn for 6 years. 6 years total, mixture with Cowboys and Atlanta. He's got a connection with Dan Quinn. Obviously, Matt LaFleur has a connection with Dan Quinn. So he probably comes highly recommended by Dan Quinn, Matt LaFleur's former boss. Probably that connection there too. You look at some of the defensive linemen that he's worked with, pass rushers, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, et cetera, et cetera. Again, a younger, non-coordinating experience. You're kind of hoping for some potential there. And then perhaps the one name that I guess if you were to just base it off of social media buzz or kind of the talk on social media, this is probably the name that's maybe getting a little bit more traction. And I don't know if it's necessarily because Packers fans are excited about it or maybe a little bit nervous about it, but this is a name that seems to be getting a little bit more attachment to this Packers opening, and that's Christian Parker. He's the defensive backs coach for the Broncos. He actually started off with the Packers as a quality control coach back in 2019. So Matt LaFleur knows him. He's only 32 years old. Spent some time in the college ranks. He is a Vic Fangio type of coach. Also worked under Mike Pettin when he first got to Green Bay. So he's got a little bit of experience with that. I'm sure teams are probably eyeing what he has done with Patrick Surtain, Justin Simmons, the defensive backs there for Denver. Now, the talk out there about Parker is that he is seen as this, I guess, quote, rising star in the coaching ranks. Kind of this young prodigy, if you will. Again, no coordinating experience, but, he's worked under Mike Pettin, Vic Fangio, Ejiro Evero, Vance Joseph, and he's young. And obviously, Matt LaFleur knows him a little bit from his quick time in Green Bay. That's the name that seems to be getting maybe a little bit more buzz out there, and it's probably because of that quote rising star label, if you will. I think some people will see that and be like, "Ooh, let's jump on that right away." And maybe he could. We don't know. We don't know, and I'm not trying to downplay it or anything like that. But I think that's why why that name is maybe generating a little bit more buzz, if you will. So those are the 4 known names out there that's been reported that the Packers have interviewed, are interviewing for their defensive coordinator position. Again, there could be more. There could have been some that have already been done. It's just nobody knows about it. There could be some that's on the schedule. But if it were me, I think the urgency to make a decision or to find a defensive coordinator is going to pick up this week. And I say that because you're starting to see teams fill in their coaching staffs. You're starting to see teams fill in their coordinator positions. We're going to have probably the final 2 openings filled this week, right? We're probably going to find that with Washington and Seattle. So they're going to be looking at their new offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, then those teams potentially who are losing some guys, they're looking to fill those roles. So if you want a bigger talent pool to choose from, that urgency is probably going to pick up a little bit this week. Now, I would assume, and I could be completely wrong in this thought process, but I would assume that Matt LaFleur probably would do more than or interview more guys than just 4. Again, I could be completely wrong, but I would assume that. I would assume that would be the case because this is a big time hire from him. He's got to get this right. He's got to nail this one. The expectations are bigger. They're bigger now. You know, the Ejiro Evero one, I feel like the Panthers aren't going to let him go. Even though they got a new head coach in there. It just because the Panthers continue to deny teams from interviewing him. So I think I just saw the Panthers blocked the Giants and the Dolphins from interviewing him. And Albert Breer did mention that the Packers also he said I'd expect the Rams, Packers, and Dolphins would all have a lot of interest in poaching him to fill their coordinator openings. Unless Euro gets one of these final 2 head coaching jobs, it seems like that maybe Carolina is kind of hell-bent on keeping him over there. So maybe you'd not take his name off the list over there too. But I think if I was a betting person, if I had to go with my gut, I think we're going to know who that defensive coordinator is back into this week for Green Bay. Just going with my gut here. Now it's almost going to be like a little bit of a race to the finish here to make sure you get your guy. All right, if more names kind of pop through here, we'll keep you posted if anything drops this morning and such, or throughout the week and that. But those are your guys right now. Those are you guys that are at least reported right now. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll take a look at as our consulting work continues for the Green and Gold. We'll take a look at the old line here for the Pack. Coming up next hour, though, Bucks. They're going to have their new head coach on the sidelines to begin this road trip here. Big game tonight for the Bucks going up against the Denver Nuggets. Doc Rivers talking to the media over the weekend. We'll go over some of his comments and what he had to say about this Bucks team and maybe kind of, things he's going to change up and things he's going to do differently a little bit. But we'll go through that here in just a little bit. Bucks picking up the win just the other day against New Orleans after dropping a game against Cleveland on Friday. Doc Rivers was in attendance for that game against Cleveland and obviously was on Saturday too, kind of checking things out. But we'll go over some of the stuff that Doc had to say. And now I think, expectations were incredibly high for this ball club to begin the season. Somehow, but I believe this, somehow they just got higher. Big time. You didn't think they'd get any higher? They got higher. Absolutely. And then we'll hear what Giannis and others had to say about the hiring of one Doc Rivers. Don't forget studs and duds. Keep those on coming. Hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen lines, 715-830-1912. We'll get back to some of those a little bit later on. At the bottom of the hour, we'll catch up with Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire from WEAU 13 News. Get the lowdown on the on some of the local stuff going on, including that big-time hockey win for Eau Claire Memorial over the number 1 ranked team in the state, Stevens Point, Spash over there. So we'll catch up with Justice on all that, including, some blue gold action and such. We'll probably talk to Justice about that in about an hour, just past 8 o'clock. We'll hit that up over there. So, but JC will be joining us at the bottom of the hour here. Plenty to catch up with him, not only just in football, but with hoops and such too. Badger basketball also picking up a win. Sweeping the regular season against Michigan State, baby. Marquette also picking up a win too. We'll kind of be interested to see where those teams maybe kind of fall into rankings here with some more upsets within the top 10 from the last week or so. You had Illinois losing, you had Kansas losing again too. Could Wisconsin creep into the top 10? We'll know a little bit later on here. But they got that big game coming up Sunday, Purdue. They can make an even bigger statement. They take down Purdue at home, this Wisconsin team. But man, AJ Storr, what a stud. 28 points against Michigan State. God, that kid's good. He's really good. All right, shot clocks that are cutting me off here. So we'll begin the next hour with some sports nuggets of the day. But keep your thoughts coming. Always join the conversation via the text, video stream, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. Quick break, and we'll be back after these news updates for hour 2. Second hour kicking off on this Monday morning, the final Monday of the month of January. Appreciate you tuning in and making us a part of your starts. I got a trivia question I'm going to give you here coming up as part of our sports nuggets of the day. But first, I want to give you a scenario. It's kind of like a bench start cut. Okay, we're going to make this a bench start cut. We do this once in a while here. But I was thinking about this last night. And I'm going to give you 3 NFL coaches. I'm going to give you their resumes without the names. Okay? Without the names here. I'm going to give you 3 NFL coaches. And I want you to tell me which coach, based off the resume, who you would pick or who you think has the best resume. Okay? So I'm going to give this to you now. Think about it, and then text me either Coach 1, Coach 2, Coach 3. Okay? So get ready. Listen closely here because I'm going through regular season and postseason numbers for these guys, and they've all coached pretty much the same amount of years. Okay? So there's not really any major discrepancies surrounding that. Coach 1. You could you could do it a bunch of different ways. You could say bench, start, cut. I'd bench this one, I'd cut this one, I'd start this one. Or you could just tell me which one you would which one you think has the best resume. Coach 1, regular season record, 160 wins, 99 losses, 618 win percentage. Playoffs, 12-10, 2 conference championship appearances, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 Super Bowl win. That's Coach 1, okay? Coach 2, 167 wins, 102 losses, a 620 win percentage. Playoffs, 11-11, 4 conference championships, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 Super Bowl win. Or Coach 3. Coach 3, 160 wins, 98 losses, 620 win percentage in the regular season. Postseason, 9-8, 3 conference championships, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 Super Bowl win. So what do we have in common here? You got these 3 coaches, same amount of Super Bowl appearances, same amount of Super Bowl wins. One coach has 4 conference championship appearances. One coach has 3 conference championship appearances. One has 2 conference championship appearances. 3 coaches in a regular season have 620 win percentages. The other one, 618. So which one are you taking? 1, 2, or 3? Kind of a little fun exercise. I want to see where people go with this. Okay, I want to see where people go with this. That's one. That's one thing. That's one question I got out there for you. And I'm gonna give this question to Justice too. I don't know if he's listening right now, but JC, get ready for this question too. All right, let's do some sports nuggets of the day here. Here comes your trivia question coming up here in just a sec as well. First off, 1936, good day, memorable day for a couple of Hall of Fames. 1936, the first members of the Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame were named in Cooperstown, New York. Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson, Walter Johnson. Not a bad first group, right? Not a bad first group at all. 1963, the first members to the Pro Football Hall of Fame were named in Canton, Ohio. A little bit of a larger group here. Here's your trivia question. 4 Green Bay Packers were named to the inaugural class of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Can you name those 4 Packers? Can you name those 4 Packers? I'll tell you the other ones who were not Packers. Sammy Baugh, Dutch Clark, Red Grange, Mel Hine, Pete Henry, Bronco Nagurski, Ernie Nevers, Jim Thorpe, Burt Bell, Joe Card, George Hallis, Tim Mara, and George Preston Marshall. So give me the 4 Packers that were a part of the first ever Pro Football Hall of Fame class without looking it up. Okay, have some fun with this. See how well you know your history here. 1995, the San Francisco 49ers became the first team in NFL history to win 5 Super Bowl titles. The 49ers defeated the Chargers 49-26. This is probably the earliest Super Bowl that I can remember as a kid watching, like remembering the majority part of the game. There's glimpses of other ones, but like pretty much watching the whole thing. I was 8 in 3rd grade, I believe. 8, somewhere around there. This is probably the first one that I can remember like the majority of the game. Again, there's bits and pieces of other ones when I was a little bit younger, not too much younger, but this is the one that I can remember like, okay, first time fully watching it. And I think I still even have some Sports Illustrated covers from that. I think it's like Jerry Rice is on the cover over there. Steve Young, saying, get the monkey off my back. And Dion with the 49ers for the 1 year. Ricky Wanners. Oh, yeah. So, all right. Those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day. Sports nuggets of the day. Doc Rivers is going to be making his debut. Doc Rivers is going to be making his debut on the sidelines here for the Milwaukee Bucks, and he was introduced to the media on Saturday with John Horst and such. Let's go over some of the comments that Doc Rivers had to say about his new team and what led him to taking this job. What led him to being here in this position? Doc first saying it's great to be back. It took me a while personally for me. Being back here is a dream. We know his connections to the area, to the city. Marquette, his numbers up in the rafters from his time during Marquette. Also said that he had been contacted by multiple teams during the season about potentially coaching this year, but he wasn't just going to take any job. It needed to be the right situation and the right opportunity. This was the quote that I really liked from Doc Rivers in that presser. And he's exactly right. But he said, we have to just find our identity. If you're going to have, quote, fear the deer, you gotta fear the deer. Bingo. That to me was the quote of the presser on Saturday. When asked about defensive struggles for this Bucks team, he said, you're correct about the defense. I sat in the stands last night, which would have been the Cleveland game over there, and saw some of it. We have to get on the same page. Our language and our communication defensively, we have to get that right. Some other stuff, when he was asked about why he answered this call and not any of the other calls from other teams, he said, you know the answer. Giannis, Dame, the Bucks are one of the teams that have a chance to win the championship. They're grown-ups. They're all grown-ups. So those were just a few of the comments. I mean, I'm sure by now a lot of you have seen probably the presser or clips of it and such there. But there's no doubt about it. I think now, I mean, before the season started, the expectations were incredibly high. I mean, they were insanely high and probably even hard to even get higher. But I think they got a little bit higher now with making a change halfway through the season, bringing in Doc Rivers. That gets you, I think, a little bit more, puts a little bit more pressure on you to make sure to get this job done. Now, what did Giannis, the Greek himself, have to say about the hiring of Coach Doc Rivers? Well, let's hear about it. All right, this is audio courtesy from Bally Sports in Wisconsin. All right, that's just audio courtesy from again Valley Sports, Wisconsin, over there. So it's going to be a unique finish to the regular season, I think, with Doc Rivers now going over to the Bucks. I mean, expectations incredibly high, but it's a chance to maybe change some narratives. Obviously, a lot of Bucks fans not too excited about the hiring of Doc Rivers, given that he's had a lot of talented teams. He's coached a lot of talented teams, but not as many championships under his belt. Maybe a little lack of playoff success, even though he has won championships, been to two finals over there, but has coached a ton of talented teams. And probably, for a lot of people's in their eye, Bush should have more championships considering the teams he's coached. But he's got an opportunity here to maybe change that narrative a bit, maybe not completely, but a bit. And then you got a team here that's the window to win is now. Dame's looking for his first. Giannis wants multiple championships, et cetera, et cetera. It's an Eastern Conference that right now it looks like the Boston Celtics are the cream of the crop. Does this hire Doc Rivers essentially, you know, get them over the top? Can they compete with the Boston Celtics? Does it give them a better chance going up against Boston when it comes playoff time if those 2 teams, happen to meet each other? Time will tell at this point in time. But right now, Boston's still in first place in the Eastern Conference by 3 games over the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks 2 and 35 and 11. Philadelphia just a couple games back from Milwaukee for that, 3rd, spot in the Eastern Conference. Western Conference-wise, you got both OKC and Minnesota sitting there at the top. Right now, OKC holding a slight advantage in the tie-breaking category, but both sitting there at, 32 and 14, but it's tight. It's a little bit tighter, between the top 4 teams in the Western Conference than, the Eastern Conference there because OKC and Minnesota are there, but you got the Clippers who are 30 and 14, 1 game back. You got Denver who's 32 and 15, and this is kind of the interesting thing here. So the Clippers are the 3rd seed right now. They're riding a 5-game win streak. They're 30 and 14, 1 game back with a win percentage of 682. Denver is in 4th, 32 and 15, 681 win percentage, but a half game back. So, I mean, this top 4, it could change every night right now. Every night. It potentially can be shuffled around for how tight everything is up at the top of the standings here. So, it'll be a tough test for the Bucks tonight on the road going up against Denver. Denver this year 18 and 4. 18 and 4 at home. When you're looking at and we'll make the picks at the end of the hour or at the end of the program here. But when you're looking in Minnesota, you wanna talk about a couple of great games tonight? You got Minnesota and OKC going at it tonight. I mean, the 2 top teams in the West going at it, and then you got a West Coast trip here starting with the Bucks going up against the Nuggets. I mean, what a night for a couple of our immediate NBA games here. But Denver's a 4.5 point favorite at home over there tonight. And then you got the Timberwolves visiting OKC. OKC 17 and 5 at home. They're 2.5 point favorite. So if you're looking to watch some hoops over there, if you're looking to watch some hoops, that's that's the one to go. You got a couple good options there tonight, man. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll bring in Mr. JC Neese, Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire. He's coming up in just a few minutes. All right, the man, the myth, the legend, JC and EC joining us in studio. So I've got two trivia questions for you to see how.
I like
Or
this.
one's trivia, one's kind of like a bench start cut sort of thing.
Okay.
First of all, trivia. Let's see how well you know your Packers history, okay?
Oh, boy.
So today was the day that the first ever Pro Football Hall of Fame class was inducted, okay? 4 Packers were on that list. 4 Green Bay Packers were on that list. I threw it out to the listeners. Nobody got it right. Nobody got it right. How many of the 4 can you name? Former Pack. Do you want me to give you the year to kind of help you?
Let's go Don Hudson.
Ding, ding.
Lambeau. Arnie no.
Nope.
Johnny Blood McNally.
Ding, ding.
Oh, what was the year that the first class?
63.
63.
A lot of people had Lombardi on there. Lombardi, nope.
Oh, man. I can't think of it.
Cal Hubbard.
Okay,
Cal
that's right. I think I got
Hubbard,
the Arnie Herbert or whatever his name was.
Yep.
Sorry, not whatever his name was. But you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
one of those early legends. I think I was okay there.
You were good. You actually got the most out of anybody.
There we go. Okay.
So the most looked like I think was 2 from some other ones out there. But Tony Canadeo was a popular one, but he was in the 70s. He got elected in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
So I remember reading about that.
Mhm.
They had a lawn service, and I believe it was his family in Green Bay, Cannondale.
Yep. So there you go. You got 3 out of 4. Nice work. Nice work.
I made my town proud.
I think the Johnny Blood one might surprise some people.
Yeah, I was, because that's the one I was on the fence on. Because wasn't he what was the years he played? Was
he played like he was at the back end when Don Hudson started playing.
Okay.
It was kind of the back end of Johnny Blood's.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, I wasn't quite sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was just I was thinking of like the Ring of Honor or whatever the numbers
on the facade over there.
Yeah, and I'm like, who was playing in that era? So
yes,
Hudson, obviously.
Right.
Hudson was
Hudson and Lambeau.
Those are the 2 almost gimmies there.
Yep, so. Exactly. Nice work.
Thank you.
All right, you ready for a little bench start cut now?
Sure.
Or tell me which one you think has the best resume, and if you have an idea,
oh boy,
who this is, try to take the name out of it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you some coaching resume numbers, and you tell me who you think has had the better career thus far. All right. Coach number 1, and I got 3 coaches. All have coached pretty much the same amount of years.
Okay.
So there's no discrepancy that way. Coach number 1, regular season record 160-99, 618 win percentage. Their playoff record is 12-10. Just 2 conference championship appearances, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 Super Bowl win.
Okay.
Coach 2, 167 wins, 102 losses, a 620 win percentage. So slightly better win percentage. Playoffs, 500, 11-11, but 4 conference championships, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 Super Bowl win. The other one, Coach 3, 160 wins, 98 losses, 620 win percentage, very similar to all 3. Playoffs, 9-8. 3 conference championships, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 Super Bowl win. So all 3 coaches have 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 win. Very similar regular season wins. The big one, you've got one coach that's got 4 championship appearances. Another one's got 3. Another one's got 2.
Boy, I guess you got to go with the one with the most conference championship appearances, because that kind of is when all things are the same, that's the one thing that's different. So
that was the majority of texters also went with coach number 2. That was a wide majority went with number 2. Do you want to know the names now?
Yes.
So number 1 with 2 conference championship appearances, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 1 Super Bowl win, John Harbaugh.
Wow.
Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
Coach number 2, who you picked, and the wide majority of people picked, Michael McCarthy.
I kind of figured McCarthy was one of them because of the 1 Super Bowl win. So,
Michael McCarthy. And Coach 3, with 3 championship appearances, Sean Payton.
Okay. Now I figured Payton was one of the other ones. John Harbaugh was the one I kind of forgot. That you forget that he's been coaching there for so long.
Yeah.
Like he took over for Belichick, right? Or was there probably somebody in between? Not Belichick.
Billick. Brian Billick.
Thank you.
I always get those two mixed up
Brian
on
Billick,
there.
Yeah. We have Bill Belichick, Brian Bill,
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's been there a long, long time, so it makes sense.
It made me look that up when I heard Tony Romo say during the telecast he's one of the best to ever do it. And I'm like, okay, what? I want to know his resume a little bit there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to compare him to other guys that have been around the same. So I did those three. And yeah, majority. That's why I kept the names off, because I think if I put the names on there, McCarthy probably wouldn't have gotten so many votes.
Yeah.
From Packers fans. But that was the why majority went number 2. And that was Michael McCarthy.
Sean Payton interviewed for the Packers job.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being at the airport.
And your many stakeouts in Green Bay?
It was him. Wade Phillips was another one that interviewed for that job.
Because him and Ted, didn't Ted play for his dad or something like that in Houston?
For Houston, So there was that connection. So it was those were the two that I remember having to go stake out Austin Stroll Airport in Green Bay when that was going on. So a few times I was there during that era. That was also during the Drew Rosenhaus, Mike McKenzie.
Oh, good Lord.
Troubles that happened there.
Wow.
And I think Javon Walker, that whole thing happened.
Man.
Too, when he decided he wanted to get
Look
paid.
at you, just drama follows you.
I guess so.
There with the Favre flying back too, right?
Oh, yeah. Man, that was a different era there. That was quite a couple of years, I'll tell you what.
Absolutely. So I just thought that was kind of interesting to
throw
it
it out
good.
There. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody realizes that those guys have kind of been doing what they've been doing for so long and really have become three staples. I mean, Peyton took a year off.
McCarthy kind of had a year off too.
Yeah, had a year off too. But yeah, John Harbaugh's been just
and then Peyton was suspended for a year too.
That's right. I forgot about that too.
Throw that in there. Yeah. So, but yeah, very similar win percentages. The exact same Super Bowl appearances and wins, and 4-3-2 in championship appearances. So
it's Kyle Shanahan. Get that.
He's going to be getting up there pretty soon. I should. The Tomlin one, he's got at least a couple of Super Bowls. I know Tomlin's going to be up there in years too.
Yeah, Tomlin's
there. So
there.
Yeah, that one would have been easy. Like, 2 Super Bowls. Yeah.
How many wins does Tomlin have now?
Mike Tomlin. Let me look that up.
Guy who's never finished under 500 in a season.
That's just nuts.
Yeah, that whole organization, it's pretty impressive for them to have just basically 3 coaches in the last 60 years.
Yep. He's got he's 173 and 100, 17 years. 8-10 in the postseason, so he's actually got a poorer playoff record than all the other coaches, but he's got 2 Super Bowl appearances early part of his career on there. So 1 loss at the hands of Michael McCarthy.
That's right.
So all right, what did you think of the games from yesterday? You got Chiefs versus Ravens. To me, that one just felt like you could tell when time was starting to run out or in the second half, one team that's been there before.
Yep.
And one team that was like maybe panicking a little bit and just making stupid decisions and stupid plays there. It just felt like you could tell the Chiefs have been there before.
Right.
And they know what they're doing right now.
For them to win just 17 points, I think is actually kind of amazing against a team that's shown that they can score points in Baltimore and as the MVP more than likely playing on their team. The Ravens, they panicked. Lamar Jackson, I think that's the hump he has to get over is in these big situations, not making those throws. I mean, that one into the end zone, there's no excuse. You can't. Yeah. You must. I know you're probably feeling it, but
I know likely waved his hand to I'm open, but I'm like, dude, you weren't open.
No,
to make that.
And if he was open, the window closed real quick.
Yeah,
I don't know. So that's tough. That's but I mean, you don't ever believe in us Chiefs once again, making it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They've got
do you think they've got that villain card on them now, kind of similar to the Patriots?
I was discussing this yesterday with somebody. It's not only the fact that they're now 4 out of 5 years in the Super Bowl and really have become a dynasty, the latest one that we've seen in football, but you throw the Taylor Swift stuff.
Yes.
That people don't like either. I don't get it. I have no problem with it. But that's just to the point where now they're so overexposed to a lot of people that they're definitely got the villain card, I think. People don't want to see them, much like the Patriots or like the Yankees in baseball, the Dodgers in baseball. People don't want to see them in the title game, but they keep making it to the title game, and it's just a testament to what Andy Reid has done as a coach there.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think they do. I don't know if San Francisco has a better gloss on them either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Chiefs are just they find a way to rise to the top every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I said it in the first hour. I don't know if you would agree with this. If Spagnuolo maybe didn't already have a head coaching stop on his record when he was with the Rams, I know he was interim with the Giants after the whole Ben McAdoo debacle or whatever. And maybe if he was, what you could say, whether it's right or wrong, a little bit younger, he'd be getting head coaching consideration, I think, right now.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, the job that he has done, even last year, a bunch of rookies and second years on that defense, and doing it again this year. I think, you take away maybe, I think a lot of people are probably looking at what he did with the Rams and such, and he's like, well, he's just a better coordinator than a coach. But if he never had a head coaching stop, I think you're probably hearing his name mentioned a lot for head coaching.
And it looks like Ben Johnson's probably going to the Commanders. So all we have left now is the Seahawks job.
Yep.
Which again, you talk about Bill Belichick. I don't see why he would go there.
No,
it doesn't fit. I think he's taking the year off. I honestly, if he ever comes back,
especially John Schneider finally now has full control of football because Pete Carroll kind of had the final say of everything over there. So he probably doesn't want to bring in another coach that's going to want all that say.
And it doesn't really make sense to go from Pete Carroll to Bill Belichick.
Right.
When you're going from a really experienced coach to another I don't see what's going to change too much.
It's New England all over again.
Right, exactly. It'd be so crazy if that's how it ended up going. But yeah, I don't see that happening. So like you said, Spagnuolo, I think there's that because he was a head coach that some people are just kind of weary. It was like Dan Quinn. For a while there too. It was like once you've had that coaching, there's always that where can that guy make the next step to being a head coach from coordinator? And I think Spagnuolo will get another shot. It just probably obviously not this year because there's just you make that deep playoff run.
If Andy Reid does retire, maybe he gets promoted to that job.
That's true. That's also true. I think it's gonna be an interesting matchup defensively with Spagnuolo versus the offense for the 49ers because you get into Brock Purdy's face, he can make some bad throws.
Yep.
And he has not been he's been about flip a coin for him the last two games.
Yep.
Man, he can go from just looking horrible, but then looking brilliant real quick. But he hasn't looked elite in these two games. And if Spagnuolo can get to him and get that pressure, he's gonna make some bad throws, but he also can make some amazing throws that you probably don't want to. The one over the middle that who was it? Was it Ayuk or not Ayuk? The one where the guy had to stretch out.
Yeah.
Juszczyk had like two nice, brilliant catches. I mean,
and then the deflection off the face mask wasn't a Brock Purdy throw. That was just luck over there.
Yeah, that was. It hits the guy right square in the face mask. And credit to Ayuk for keeping his focus there and making that catch. I mean, that play to me is the one that changed the game.
I agree.
It just like the momentum just shifted after that. They got the field goal to start the half. Get that play, get the touchdown there, and next thing you know, the game ends up being tied real quick after that. After the fumble too. And I don't know if I've seen a team on the other side with the Lions flip.
The way they lost a 17-point lead in 8 minutes?
Yeah,
I think
the way they were dominating, like running the ball, the defense looked great. Everything was going so well. And it was like right after that Ayuk play, it was done.
Yep.
It was like even when it was tied at 24, I'm like, I think San Francisco's winning this game. I just had no faith that the Lions could turn it around. Unfortunately, Lions history kind of, you start thinking of just how the bad luck that franchise has had, and it's like that's what it felt like. It's like I think Vikings fans can probably attest to that feeling of, oh no, here we go again, and that's what it seemed like with the Lions in the second half.
I feel like if Ben Johnson does get that job or does take that job with Washington, we're talking, and we'll get back to the Packers defensive coordinator search here in just in a little bit here. That's a huge hire for Dan Campbell because you can kind of connect some of that. His first offensive coordinator was Anthony Lynn, who now is with the 49ers.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working, and he made a switch, and Ben Johnson got a shot, ended up getting the full-time gig. He has done wonders with that offense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Detroit, you want to keep him, but it's probably not happening.
Exactly. So I feel like that's a huge hire for Dan Campbell. How do you find a coordinator that can get the best out of Jared Goff, continue to get the best out of him? You got a lot of young talent down there. but kind of continue that.
The amount of people they've turned over, not only on the defensive side, they had a bunch of rookies that are making plays, but offensively, last year to give away T.J. Hawkinson to the Vikings,
and
have Laporta come in and just be as good, if not better, of a tight end, and you lose both your starting running backs, from the year before.
One who rushed for over 20-some touchdowns.
Right. Bring in the new guys, and they didn't. They were arguably a better offense with those two younger guys in there than they were with the veterans they had the year before. That to me is amazing too. And Jared Goff, I mean, he didn't do a whole lot in the game yesterday. He made the last touchdown late in the game. But still, I mean, he managed the game pretty well. I don't know. I think that Lions team, it's going to be fun to watch the Packers and the Lions here the next few years, because both teams are relatively young, and we're going to see a lot of the same faces on both sides battling each other.
Exactly. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get your thoughts on the defensive coordinator search here, the names that probably aren't sparking a whole lot of optimism amongst Packer fans out there right now. Still, I haven't seen anything new yet of this morning of any other interviews or anything like that, but we'll do that. And then coming up just past 8, we'll catch up on some local stuff. JC was at that game we were chatting about a little bit earlier, the Memorial big-time hockey win against Spash on Saturday. So we'll hit that up as well. Coming up after these quick words. Ten minutes to the top of the hour here this morning, coming up just past 8. We'll catch up on some of the local stuff going on here. Before that, though, Packers defensive coordinator search, as we think, still continues to roll right now.
Yeah.
4 names that have been reported to be out there. First of all, I guess before that, I'll ask you this because I know it's a little over a week old, but we've talked about it off and on. Were you, and I'll phrase it this way, were you surprised that LaFleur actually let go of Joe Barry?
Not really. I think
really?
there was just so much that had gone on during the year that I think they were ready to just go see what they could do with something else. I mean, the defense obviously did play a little bit better at the end of the year, but I think it was so inconsistent that at that point it was, okay, let's see if we can go find something else to maybe solidify this defense a little better and just have them play consistently. And i.e. like a Tampa Bay game where you give up big yardage to somebody who, I mean, arguably they made the playoffs and ended up having a great year in Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
But at that point, that defense, I seemed like they were much better than what Tampa Bay was. So, and even the Carolina comeback where they almost blew that game. I mean, there's the examples are out there where
Tommy Cutlets, and
even in the playoffs. I mean, the defense kind of struggling in the second half doesn't help either.
So these are the names that have been reported to have or is interviewing with Green Bay. I think they've all interviewed with Green Bay now. The one that I think everybody probably knows, Brandon Staley, former Chargers coach, defense coordinator for the Rams when they won the Super Bowl over there, runs very similar style to Joe Barry, a Vic Fangio style over there.
We also talked about guys who maybe as a head coach could make that leap. I think there's a lot of people that are discounting him because of what happened as the head coach of San Diego, but don't let that, we were just talking about Steve Spagnuolo with the Chiefs. There's a guy who didn't have great success as a head coach, but is still an awesome coordinator.
Yep.
Staley's got that resume there, so don't let the Chargers scare you away.
I feel, though, if that is the hire, there will be a loud contingent of Packers fans like, really? Kind of like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's going to happen.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Then you got a couple, the next 3 is probably names you, or I should say general fans, or even diehard fans probably have never heard about. Now, these guys have also gotten interviews elsewhere for defensive coordinator positions, but as soon as Barry was announced that he was let go and everybody came out with their watch list, these guys I don't think I saw on any of the watch lists for the Packers. Bobby Babich, the linebackers coach for Buffalo, his dad used to be the Bears defensive coordinator back in the day. So you got that's completely different style of defense over there. No coordinating experience. Obviously under Sean McDermott, after all these years with Buffalo, originally was a safeties coach. Now, last couple of years, linebackers coach for Buffalo. So maybe if you want to go something completely different, that's an option over there. This one is Aiden Durde. He is the defensive line coach for the Cowboys, but he has spent time with Dan Quinn in Atlanta and now Dallas. LaFleur connection, Dan Quinn. I'm sure he's got I'm sure Dan Quinn probably gave him a glowing endorsement over there. So, again, you kind of have that style of defense, Dan Quinn. And then it seems like this is the name that, I don't know if buzz is the right word, but if you go on Packers social media, this is the one that a lot of people are talking about. And I don't know if it's because that's who they want or they're like, is he a little too young? 32-year-old Christian Parker, who was a quality control assistant when LaFleur first came to Green Bay. So LaFleur's familiar with him. Then went to Denver, and he has been the defensive backs coach since 2021. So he worked under Pettin in Green Bay, Vic Fangio, Ejiro Evero, Vance Joseph in Denver. Again, he's 32 years old. And I don't know if that's where some people are like, oh, that's too young, and not a lot of experience.
Head coaches have been 32 years old at this point.
Exactly. So those are the names right now that are being floated out there. And you can tell there's a little bit of a mixture of different philosophies.
Right. And the problem is, other than Staley, no one's a big name. And then I think people want them to make a splash with this hire because Joe Barry wasn't a splash. And it didn't work out. But Mike Pettin was a splash because Mike Pettin was a former head coach when they hired him, and that didn't work out. Dom Capers was a splash, former head coach, a guy who had, and again, people, as much success as he had with Green Bay, I always felt like he was on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm. And I think
that
there's
might
some
be the
excitement.
toughest position to be
Yeah.
for a Packer. Quarterback might be easier than being a defensive coordinator in Green Bay at this point.
Yeah.
And is it because of the history going back to the Lombardi era, going to the Reggie White era?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the reason why defense, even in the 80s when they weren't that great?
They want to resurrect Fritz Schirmer right now.
Oh, Fritz was, man, there you go. But it sounded like Fritz Schirmer was a big name.
Right.
I mean, he was a full-time, had been an assistant his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know which one of those names is going to make everybody. I don't think there is a name in there that's going to make everybody happy. Bill Belichick. There's the name.
Bill Belichick or Jim Leonard.
Yeah,
and I think the Jim Leonard thing has sailed.
Yeah,
I personally feel like it sailed away. He had a shot.
If he's not being interviewed or doesn't want to be, we don't know if he wants to be interviewed. If he's fine where he is.
Yep, exactly. I mean, who's probably the one defensive coordinator out there that's still a big name? I mean, Wink Martindale.
Right.
Is probably the big one that's available, looking for a job. I would imagine. Veteran guy.
Fangio found a job. I mean, that was another big name. I think Leslie Frazier is coming back to Buffalo. Wasn't he just like taking a?
Yeah, it was
weird. Like a sabbatical for a year, but
because he wants to be a head coach again. So I don't know if he's like trying to find a job to be a head coach, or something. And he did visit Green Bay in the summer because he was working with NFL Network and like minority coaches and all that. So I mean, there's a little bit there, but Bill ain't gonna be here.
No.
And here's the thing: Matt LaFleur probably doesn't want. I just feel that's a Richard and Rick Pitino situation where you got Matt LaFleur as the head coach and he's always looking over his shoulder. Am I doing this right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And I don't know if that's going to be healthy for that over there.
I think it's not happening.
No.
Bill Belichick at this point is not coming back to be a coordinator. I know there's people like, well, he'll just take it easy. He can just be a coordinator. It's like, this guy has been riding on the top for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a point with him wanting to just come back and be a coordinator.
No. Nope.
He's only coming back to be a head coach at the right situation.
Yep.
If that happens again, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's a big name in there that's going to make everybody happy. There really just isn't, like a Rex Ryan coming out of retirement. Would that be like something that is that what people want? I don't know. What do you want, people? That's what I want to know. What do you want in a defensive coordinator?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe getting a 32-year-old in there as a coordinator, maybe that, you got young blood there.
That's the other part is like, do you want a younger guy to maybe relate with the younger roster a little?
Right.
Do you want a guy that's got the question I kind of posed last week, do you want a coordinator that's got, because each coordinator's kind of got a pedigree, right? Where they first came up, linebackers, defensive line, secondary. If you look at this defense, do you want a coordinator that has more of a pedigree working with the secondary, the front line, edge rushers? Do you want a more exotic blitzes coming at you? And I kind of want a coordinator that would, because I feel like Rashawn Gary has more to contribute. Like, can they get more out of a guy like Rashawn Gary? And maybe a Quay Walker too. I feel like those are two guys you can build upon in that front seven.
And the tough thing is looking at that defense of what was the major flaw this year. I mean, injuries, that was a big thing, especially in the defensive secondary, and even at linebackers. You didn't have your full contingent out there for most of the year, especially defensive backfield. I mean, they were throwing guys that were probably second.
I mean, there was different guys in safety. I think every other drive.
Right.
It felt like.
Exactly. So I mean, the injuries were in one part of it, but I just don't know if what the main thing you want that defense to be. What's the identity they want for that defense?
Mm-hmm.
And I know, you go on social media and everybody's like, well, there's got to be a full identity change. Like, they need to be turn into the mean defense. Yeah, you got to do it, but you still got to have the horses to do it.
Right.
And I don't know what exactly this defense is built right now to be. Obviously, there's good players. There's some great players on that defense, but it'll be interesting to see how that can all play out.
It's going to be, especially when you factor in the lines, if they do have to get a new offensive coordinator, and if it is these two teams that are going to kind of be going at it for the next few years in the NFC North.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator, new ones kind of battling what's there too, which makes it, I think, a little bit more intriguing at that point.
I think if I had to go, I feel like if you're willing to pay, Staley would be the one to go
with. Yeah.
If the guy got a head coaching job off of what he did,
mm-hmm.
is coached coached a very good defense with that Rams defense and had some really good players on it, obviously, to get there.
And he might go to the Rams, back to the Rams.
That's
too.
true. That's the other thing is, so it's like he's just gonna. I think he'd be the hardest one to get though, too.
Right.
Because he's got the name recognition there.
Yep. All right, so we got to take a quick break. After these news updates, we'll chat some local stuff coming up after the quick break, plus some Bucks chat with JC. Third and final hour kicking off right now on this Monday morning. Illini Greg with a quick text. Spags never got a fair shake with the Rams' real-life situation of the movie Major League. Ownership actively trying to lose to build the case to leave town for their new mecca in L.A. I think Josh McDaniels was like the offensive coordinator over there for a year or something like that. But
yeah, I mean, I can...
That was like 2011.
Yeah.
I went to a Packer-Rams game, and it was not good.
Yeah, I can see that definitely being the case that they were, Spanos, is that the guy who owns the?
That was the Chargers.
Same situation.
Yeah. I could picture him for the Rams. I just had it. Stan Kroenke. Kroenke or whatever. Yep.
I knew it was another bigger name guy who's been an owner for a while.
Yep.
So,
because isn't he own the Knights? Does he own the Vegas Knights or something like that? So I know he owns another team. Somewhere over there. So. All right. Before we get to some Bucks chat, because again, I want to get JC's thoughts on the Bucks with their switch in head coaching. We're going to see the debut of Doc Rivers on the sideline. Sounds like tonight's against the Denver Nuggets. We've got a couple of good NBA games.
Yeah,
that and then OKC and Minnesota, the two top in the Western Conference.
Get somebody scoring 70 points again.
Right.
What a week it was!
I know, right? I mean, I posted a poll question. Everybody said no, or the majority. But now I'm kind of wondering, do you want to go back? Do you think we'll see somebody get 100?
I don't know if we'll see anybody get 100. That's still such a insane amount of points. 80 is now
passing Kobe. Passing Kobe's 80, 81. Did he have?
Yeah, it's in play. Man. Definitely in play. But yeah, I mean, it was quite the week for scoring. It really was. And then you think about it, like, we were talking about the Timberwolves taking on Thunder, and you get a guy score 60 points and lose. I mean, it happened to the Bulls in the playoffs one time with Jordan.
Yeah,
they were also taking on
your guy.
Yeah, the Celtics.
Larry Legend, Larry Bird. So before we get to the hoops chat here, let's catch up on some of the local stuff here, and I want to start off with a game that you were in attendance for on Saturday. I mean, we've been talking about Big Rivers hockey all season long.
Yep.
You got Chi High over there doing, fantastic. Hudson's always a program north. But that is a massive win for an Eau Claire Memorial team to take down number one ranked Spash, but take them down 5-1.
Yeah. I mean, that game, that's the best I've seen Memorial play all season, which I think they would probably agree was the best game that they played all season. From the drop of the puck to the end, an intensity and a fire, and just, I think defensively they played very, very well, which had, a couple weeks ago they had played New Richmond and struggled defensively, but they came out against Spash and just looked like they were on a mission. And it was hard hitting. They wanted to make a statement, and to do that against the number one team in the state shows you just how good they are. And this is, that's the second time they've taken down a number one team this season. They took down Madison Edgewood last month as well.
Right. Yeah.
So this Memorial team is going to be strong. And it just, to me, it makes of a bigger thing that the playoffs are going to be just so almost wide open.
That was my next question for you, especially like BRC representation over there. I mean, it seems like the last few years, it's always kind of been like Memorial Hudson talked about, but now you add in what Chi High is doing and all that stuff. I mean, it's how many, do you know off the top of your head, like how many of these teams can get to the postseason bracket wise? I mean, is it just a few or?
Well, they all make okay.
They'll
all be in there. It's just a matter of where they're going to get. Like if you try to figure out the number one seed for this side of the state.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy because I think Spash beat Chi High. Chi High beat Memorial. Memorial beat Spash. Hudson's got wins in there as well.
Man.
So, I mean, to me, it's going to be very, very hard to pick a number one seed. And then Chi High and Memorial will play the final game of the regular season, but by then, the seedings are already going to be decided.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm really looking for it. I was talking to some people there during the game one day. I don't know if I've seen it as even, and it's statewide. I don't think there's one team that's high above anybody. There's a lot of really good teams that are going to go into this pool, and the playoffs should just be great.
That's awesome. And that's going to be coming up here kind of soon.
We're getting close. Yeah. We are, towards the, now we get to February. I think it's the middle of February. We'll start the playoffs there because, man, hockey's usually one of those, it's wrestling than hockey.
Right.
When it comes to playoffs. So, yeah, it's, I'm looking forward to it. The playoff hockey, that's an old cliche that it doesn't get any better than playoff hockey, but man, it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. And I know Brandon was kind of touching on it Friday, but you were hitting the basketball circuit last Thursday
yes.
as well, too. So, I mean, just kind of recapping, I guess, BRC wise and Clover Belt, if you want like boys basketball, Still Memorial,
Memorial
for the BRC.
They did suffer a loss to a really good River Falls team. In the first time they played, it was a nail biter in River Falls, and it was the same thing. Memorial had a chance to get the win there at the buzzer, but River Falls ended up holding on. I don't think it's a loss that hurts Memorial at all. River Falls is ranked up there, I believe, to D2. So, yeah, I think it was just a good, regular season clash that's going to help both teams as the season goes on. And Memorial's a tough team. I know Cooper Jesperson went down for, I don't know, at the end of the game, they were missing him. That's a big key to have when you're trying. But they battled back even without him on the floor. That's a deep team. So on the boys' side, yeah, I mean, that's the team. And then Bloomer continues in Clover Belt, but I mean, Fall Creek and McDonald right there as well, for those teams. So you got Elk Mound and Durand, Arkansas, and the Dunn St. Croix that are, battling, and we'll battle it out. And then Dairyland, Emmanuel's having a really decent season.
You were just there, was it last week or so? Watching
yeah,
yep.
My favorite,
I was going to say
wood
that's your
paneling
favorite
gym, which they're going to build a new one at some point. I'm going to cry. Maybe they can give me a piece of the.
I was going to say put it in your basement, just a piece over there.
I already have enough of that. I don't need any more. But yeah, so on the boys' side, you look that way. On the girls' side, the Memorial girls continue to play very, very well.
Yeah, that's I was going to ask you about the Memorial girls, because that BRC, we were hearing a lot about Menominee this year. Menominee's still in there too.
Yeah, they're still very good.
And it's just like, oh, Emmanuel or Memorial's like, hold on, we're here too, and they're off to or having a fantastic season.
That is. I was watching them on Saturday night. They played Chi High, and just the depth of that team. They don't lose a whole lot when they have the substitutions come in, and they play such tough defense. Yeah. Fanning's got that team playing very well too. So I mean, we get to the playoffs, it's going to be fun. I was talking about the hockey. With basketball, it's going to be the same way. And on the girls' side, McDonald just continues to be that cream of the crop. Even though they've moved a division up, Laconia is the team ahead of them in the rankings, and that's who they have their target. They want to get to state, take down Laconia. They said that when we talked to them a few weeks ago. So. Yeah, and Elk Mound is just running the table there over in the Dunn St. Croix. So just it really is, we're getting towards that point now. Once you get to, you flip that calendar to February, get that final month.
Right.
And then we, get to March and we got playoff time. So it's going to be interesting to see how these conference battles play out before the playoffs.
And even like middle border for Altoona girls, they're
kind of, I don't want to leave them out. They are, Michelle Poplinski doing a great job coaching that team. And they're a tough team. They take on all comers too. So yeah, that's the thing. We've seen a lot of. I mean, McDonald, to talk about. I don't go back to them real quick. They played Hudson.
Ooh,
that's a D1 team.
Yeah,
and just lost by like 1 or 2 points. So that just tells you. I mean, and you see a lot of that around here. These teams aren't afraid to challenge it. Altoona's played everybody. I feel like every time I see them, they're playing a non-conference game against a tough team around here. So and that's the nice thing about this area, is that it just gives you the opportunity to play some of those tough teams.
Because I was looking at, the boys for Altoona schedule a couple weeks ago, and coming down the wire, I know they play Medford, and that's a connection. Paulie Hendricks, Medford grad, shout out over there. But there was another game, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like a tough game coming up for them on the schedule too. But it just that prepares for potential postseason runs, right? To get ready for that.
And that's Altoona too, playing in that middle border. You see, teams that we're not used to seeing.
Chi High is who they play, so that's who it was. Yep.
Yeah, and those middle border teams I've saw. Prescott played Chi High at one point. Then they played Durand. And there's so many good teams around here that if you're looking for a game, it seems like there's always going to be a decent matchup going on.
Absolutely. And I know we got, swimming and diving kind of going on too, and wrestling maybe starting to wrap up. And
wrestling's definitely getting closer and closer to the postseason. There's the Whitetail Classic over in Menominee for the boys on Friday, and then the girls also on Saturday there. Hitting the mats there. So getting very close towards the end of that season too.
And I know a little over a week ago, but North got the trophy between them and Memorial.
Yes,
I love that trophy.
It's great to have
those
rivalries and have them, get the spotlight like they do.
Yep, definitely. Blue Gold wise, I mean, there's a lot going on. Blue Golds. I know basketball just had a rough week against Whitewater, but I mean, you talk about a girls Whitewater team that's top 5, men's is top 25 over there.
The women's team playing great. Just kind of ran into a buzzsaw on Saturday at Whitewater, but I think they can bounce back. They had that's a young team. You Kylie Mogan, who's kind of the veteran on the team, but most of that team is underclassmen or around, So that team's really played the last couple times I've saw them play, turned it up from the beginning of the year. That's what Tanya England's teams do. That they just get better and better as you go on, and that's what you want. That's what that team has done. Men's team's just having some struggles. That is a team that I feel like if they could just break through and get a big win, can turn it on. They can compete with any team. I mean, I was there when they played Platteville, and Platteville top 10 team. They can do it. It's just it's got to get kind of over that hump and turn it on. So
and they got Platteville again this Wednesday, so a chance to maybe bounce back and pick up that big win.
You got to if you're Matt Seiberling, you got to tell him like you guys nearly beat this team a month ago. You can do it. It's there, and then it is there with that team. And then kind of going over talking about men's basketball, Brody Fox and what he's been doing at Stout. Yeah. He's leading all of collegiate basketball in scoring right now. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, what that Stout team that's been playing a lot better as of late too. So.
And I know the women's team had high expectations or have high expectations for this year too for Stout.
Yeah, it's been they've had their struggles.
Yep.
And that's tough when that target there, the way they played last year, it's been on them. But the second half, we're now in the second half of the WIC season. These teams that are really going to figure out what they can do. You got to make the postseason tournament and then try to make a run.
Blue Gold Hockey's going to get. I mean, we're starting to wrap up the regular season here. Men's wise, they just got series against River Falls and then Stout to wrap up their regular season, and then the women's team. Well, this is going to get interesting because they got River Falls twice.
Yeah, that's a rivalry that is one of the best in women's hockey. And I've been at a lot of those games. So
so it's going to get interesting with those, and you got Northland mixed in there too for the women's team, and they got Augsburg. I think is it tomorrow night, Tuesday there too. But
the men's team got Stout beat Point on Friday night.
That's right.
So the men's team's only 2 points away from Point for the regular season.
Nice
title. I don't know what the tiebreaker probably goes to Point because I think Point's won every match. But you never know. If you can win the rest of your games and Point loses 2 games,
right?
Leapfrog them in the standings. It's quite possible. So yeah, and so I think the men's team want to get that regular season title,
right?
Or at least be up there. It's probably going to take them winning the conference tournament to get in. But that's a team that can do it. That's an experienced team. So
yeah, and just to kind of wrap it up here too, this Blue Gold wrestling program, man, with what Tim Fader is
rolling.
I mean, what Tim Fader has done in the year since he is gone or came over here. They got the Don Parker Open coming up this Saturday. Shout out to one of my former professors, Mr. Parker. And then they got Stevens Point after that, and you're talking WIAC championships here just already in a couple weeks. But this is a team that's been like traveling the country. It seems like. Yeah. And they keep putting on these stellar performances all across the country.
The amount of players, wrestlers that they have that over 100 wins. Strickers comes to my head right away.
Yep.
And I think you keep going like the way they are. Nationals are in La Crosse this year.
They are.
So it's right down the road, and they're chomping at the bit to send not if they can the team, but as many individuals there as they can. So it'll be fun to see what they can do and just continue what they do. And a lot of these guys that, it's not like Fader's been there a long time.
Right.
This program went from them recruiting guys on campus just to fill out a team to now being one of the top in the nation. And that's just a credit to Fader and what he has done.
Absolutely. And, for all the traveling they had to do across the country, they won't have to travel a whole lot in the final parts of their season because Don Parker Open, Eau Claire, Stevens Point, Eau Claire, WIAC Championships is at Platteville, the Upper Midwest Regionals at Stevens Point, and then Nationals is at La Crosse.
Yeah.
So you can tell that I would have to imagine, they really want to send some representation.
Right. Just go down the road and have a chance for a national title. I think they would love that.
Absolutely. So, all right. Good stuff there from JC helping us break down just some of the local stuff happening for us. Before I let you go here, I got you for about 10 more minutes. Were you surprised? Now, I'll ask you the same question. Now I asked you about Joe Berry. Were you surprised that they actually did let go of Adrian Griffin?
I wasn't really.
No?
I don't know. For some reason, in my mind, I just never saw the fit.
Yeah.
It just didn't, from the start. when the defense just kept getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't seem like, maybe it's the Terry Stotts thing getting dismissed early in the season. Like, it was
a
a
week
red flag
before, you know, or something like that.
Was there some kind of red flag with that? Who knows? We never really got the full story of what exactly that was about. But it just never seemed almost organized. It just seemed like the team was just going out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think Adrian Griffin seemed like everybody liked him, and he seemed like he was a good coach. It just, for some reason, the fit wasn't there. And obviously, they weren't doing bad.
Right.
You're second in the conference, but they're seeing, the organization was seeing something that just wasn't working for what that team can do.
Yep.
So it did not really surprise me when I heard it.
So Doc Rivers going to make his debut tonight after, kind of watching the team from the stands the last couple days in Milwaukee. Also got to be on the court for his Marquette team over there too. Got to talk a little bit to the crowd there. I know there's a lot of Bucks fans who aren't necessarily excited about the Doc Rivers era to begin. But the question I would throw out to people at that is, like, who else was realistically available at that point in time? And I think you factor in, yes, you look at, he's had a lot of talented teams, won championship there. But I think a part of it is, or a couple of things. One, who was out there, but also he's got a lot of experience coaching a lot of superstar personalities, which I think could get a little, I don't know if this was the case, but, a little too much for a first-time head coach to go into a locker room and you already got MVPs of Giannis and championships and Dame, who's a top 75 player of all time, Middleton, Brook, and all those veterans over there.
Yeah.
Whereas when Doc goes in there, I feel like he's going to get a little bit more respect from those guys once he walks into that locker room.
And I look at it this way too. Doc's just half a year removed from being there on the baseline coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So the sidelines coaching. So I think you have that. I think that's a key. It's not because realistically, somebody you're grabbing is probably somebody who's is doing the same thing Doc was.
Yeah,
is a commentator.
Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah,
those
Stan
guys.
Van. Like you got. It's like, but those guys haven't been on the sidelines in a while.
Right.
I think you have a guy who was coaching. Not only that, he was coaching in the Eastern Conference.
Yep.
Just a year ago.
Yep.
With one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
He knows these opponents pretty well.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, it was the fit, and I think it was the only fit, unless you were going to go interim the rest of the year, which you weren't going to do with this team.
Right.
So I think, to me, the only other option to me was bring Bud back.
Yeah, and I know Nate McMillan's name was thrown out there, but that doesn't even move the needle for me.
No.
I know he's more defense than that, but that's where I always got nervous with interim coaches when he was Atlanta's interim coach and got to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bucks that year.
Yeah.
And then he gets the full-time job, but never worked out after that.
Right.
So. But that didn't move the needle for me either.
No, I think Doc was probably the logical fit.
Mm-hmm.
I know it. I think they probably had to coax Doc. Honestly, I don't think it was like Doc was knocking on the door once this opening happened. I think it took the Bucks to kind of say, "Hey, could we get you? What would it take for us to get you
right
to take over this team?"
Do you think they were? I'll play a little conspiracy theory here. So, the reports that Doc was kind of mentoring Adrian Griffin a little bit there. Apparently Doc was helping out Adrian or the Bucks had reached out to Doc to, hey, can you kind of maybe help him out here a little bit? Conspiracy, did that open the door maybe a little bit where they had this grand vision like, okay, we'll start off with this, do it for a couple weeks, but we have this vision. Doc's going to coach it by the All-Star game.
I don't know. I think they wanted to give. I don't think you want to have 3 head coaches under contract at the same time like the Bucks do right now. So I think they wanted to give Adrian Griffin the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. Because they didn't want to admit they got it wrong this early, right? Nobody wants to.
But when you're struggling against the likes of, and they're struggling again, they won a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just the games against some of the weaker opponents where they're just giving up so many points. It's like they just weren't playing defense.
Yeah. We weren't feeling good about a potential Pacers first-round matchup, right? And that would have been like a 2-7.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
No. And even the games against, I think it was the games against Detroit.
Yeah.
A team that's obviously not good,
but
still putting up 120, 130 points against you.
Yeah.
That's where it starts, like the alarms start going off of what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
You can't win games scoring 140 points every game.
Yep.
And that's the problem, is that they almost had to score 140 at times because of the way the defense was playing or whatever and again, I'm not an X and O's guy. I don't know exactly what was different between this defense and what Coach Bud was doing, but it just was not working.
And it can't be just Drew Holiday, right? It can't be did Drew Holiday make a 20, 25 point difference defensively?
Right. That's a lot to think that's the huge, it's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could, Grayson Allen, another guy who could play defense, but I don't know. There's things just did not click.
Yeah.
And Brooke Lopez can be a liability on defense now at this point. Obviously, he's one of the better centers, but you don't play traditional center anymore. There's not many guys backing down other guys in the post. Right. You have to go out and guard guys on the perimeter, and Lopez just can't. Like, once a guy gets a step past him, it's hard for him to catch up.
Yeah, you can see teams trying to exploit that, right? Bringing him outside and trying to get by him and that sort of stuff.
Well, and the thing is, too, is but with Prunty taking over those 3 games, I don't know if it was just, call it a mirage or not, but the defense was playing better. Like, you can live with 112. It's when you're giving up over 120.
Yeah.
That it's going to be a lot harder to win those games. And those games that they were playing are going to take a tax on those players. Instead of having, that's a team that should be able to blow out some teams.
Yep.
Get those guys the rest. But with the Bucks, it never felt like they had a safe lead. Even if it was like a 20-point lead, they found ways to let it come back. So I think we'll see play.
And you got a trade deadline coming up here in a couple weeks, and I know they don't have a lot of assets they can trade. They don't have a lot of money unless they want to pay more luxury tax here. But I guess I'll never say never with John Horst and some of the moves he's made already. If he can find a way to do something, he could. But that might mean trading Pat Connaughton, guys like that. Bobby Portis is being mentioned as a trade. I don't know. Would they do that as kind of the chemistry? And I don't know, but that's what you would have to do to make some of these moves if you want to.
Yeah, there's the draft capital really isn't there.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be some player moves. So, or buying out, but they don't have a whole lot of money.
Right.
So it'd be really tough to see what they can do you would probably want some kind of guard that's a defensive stopper.
Yep.
Just get somebody in there that you can put in for Dame in defensive situations. So
yep.
They'll probably end up doing something, but it's gonna take a lot of moving. There's gonna be a lot of moving parts for them to be able to do it.
And I wonder now too if they might be overthinking this a little bit. Would they target somebody who's maybe a little familiar with Doc Rivers' system, so it won't take an adjustment? A guy. How many times have we seen that? Where a coach comes in and he's gonna bring in a guy or two to help teach this, or kind of knows that system already. I don't know if that would happen with this. Maybe especially on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Doc mentioned he knows that's they got to figure that out. And he said he noticed it watching a game. A lot of it was communication and such over there. But I don't know. I'm not shutting the door that they won't make a move.
No, you can't. Doc's guy who's played, has coached a lot of places too and knows a lot of players. So if there's even somebody you can get a veteran that just knows more of a defensive guy for those situations, you can get him for a lower price.
Is this kid still playing somewhere? Austin?
That's a good point.
I don't know if he's still playing. Is even the defensive guy over? Austin is last played for the T-Wolves.
Yeah, that's right. I was in San. I remember seeing him play last year.
So I don't think he's out there right now. Never
there
know.
You go.
Never know, right? So, but a late game tonight, 8 p.m. For the Bucks. But again, speaking of the T-Wolves, that huge game against OKC.
Yeah,
tonight too. So
T-Wolves team, that's a team that needs to. They're winning, but you still can see the youth a lot of times with that team, and just maybe like the coach saying after with the Cats big game, they weren't playing right. They were playing selfish, and they lost that game.
Yep.
So that's something they've got to learn as a younger team to kind of get over that hump of, we're good, but we can be great.
Exactly. All right, Justice, dude, I'll let you go, but we appreciate you stopping by and giving us your wisdom, the knowledge.
I gave it all away. I got nothing left for the rest of the week.
All right, well, you got to rest up now for the rest of the week, and let's do it again here too. Really quick before I let you go, prediction time. Do you think we'll know who the defensive coordinator is this week?
I think we will.
By
the end of the week, I think they'll.
I do too.
Have some, unless they're looking at one of those two teams in the Super Bowl.
And I don't know who they would be right now off the top of my head. I don't.
There's
But
other names, other.
We didn't know any of these
assistants.
three.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But yeah, I agree because I think now you're going to get Seattle's filled, Washington's going to get filled this week, and all of a sudden you're going to have that mad scramble to fill staffs.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be in this week. All right, dude, we appreciate it, man. Enjoy it, and then we're getting closer to spring training because you're going to be going to spring training too, right? What, less than 60 days now?
Yeah, it's March 6th through the 12th.
Yeah, less than 60 days. I saw the Brewers tweet out the other day. Pitchers and catchers reporting.
I was on ESPN and the top, you have your schedules on the top.
Yeah.
Somehow, because there was nothing going on yesterday, the baseball games had filled in.
Oh, wow.
So it was like February 26th. Like, it was the first Brewer spring training game. And I was like, we're already to that point where those are coming up. It's quick, less than about a month. So
I got the email 2 weeks ago from Greg Matzuk over there saying, get ready. They're coming. So like, oh boy. So, all right, dude, we appreciate it, man. We'll let you get out of here. We're going to take a quick break here, but we'll be back in just a few minutes after these quick words. Tax time's here. What are you going to do with those tax returns? I just met with my tax guy Friday. Shout out Maddie over there. But now with tax time, you get some refunds. Kind of maybe wondering, what are you going to do with that refunds? What are you going to purchase potentially? How about maybe finally getting that new floor in your home from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire? Whether you need to redo the living room, the bedrooms, maybe your own man cave, the kitchen, whatever the space, Carpet City Flooring Center has something for you. So stop on over there. Go give our friends a visit, our good friends at Carpet City Flooring Center a visit. The entire team over there is fantastic to work with. They're so awesome. It's like a big family over there. They'll help you find that floor that's going to look awesome in your space, best in your budgets, and it's going to make your home just pop. Or if maybe you're a local business owner and you're like, hey, we got to update the floor and we got to change this out. I don't know the last time this has ever been changed. Carpet City Flooring Center can help you out over there as well. So go give our good friends at Carpet City Flooring Center a visit. All right. The Wisconsin's premier flooring store. They are located, by the way, East Hamilton Avenue. All right. 3109 East Hamilton Avenue. Okay. So we got about a little over 20 minutes left in the program here. I want to do kind of a quick look at our consulting series here for the green and gold continues. So we've already done defense coordinator, and look what happened there. Joe Barry got let go. We've done running backs. We've done inside linebackers. Today, I kind of want to look at offensive line. Okay. Kind of looking at what this group did this year, looking at the future of this group. You know, Matty LaFleur reaches out to us and says, hey, you wonderful peeps in the 715. I need your opinion. I need some consulting work done. What do you think about our offensive line? What should we do about our offensive line for next year? Well, let's take a look at this group. Zach Tom, to me, probably had the best year. That right tackle spot is 100% solidified with Zach Tom finishing up his second year this year. He's the dude. He's the guy. They got that spot figured out. Whenever his contract's going to be up, he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid as a top right tackle in this league. Elton Jenkins, Pro Bowl guy, solid season this year. Left guard, solidified. Now, left tackle, I think is going to be a question, and maybe it's not so much a question, but they just got to answer the question, is Rasheed Walker the long-term starter at left tackle? You know, at the beginning of the year, I thought it was going to be Josh Nijman as the long-term future starting tackle, left tackle for the Packers. I thought it was going to be him. Nope, not anymore. I think he's going to probably be gone. Some team's probably going to pay him to be a starting left tackle over there. And Rasheed Walker and Josh were kind of, mixing and matching, trying to figure out who's going to win this job. And after Bakhtiari went on after week one, it was like, okay, who's it going to be guy? Walker was the guy. And Walker got better. Really good at pass blocking. So for me, I feel like Rasheed Walker is probably the future starting left tackle for this team. And that's a question that Green Bay themselves is going to have to answer, because if you're looking at a lot of mock drafts, I mean, because it's mock draft season, it's. I know we got the Super Bowl coming up, but you're starting to kind of get, ready for the draft. We got the Senior Bowl coming up, for crying out loud, okay? But if you starting to look at mock drafts, a lot of people picking the Packers to get a tackle with their first round pick. And I feel like if Green Bay says Rasheed is our guy for the long term, they're not going to draft a tackle in the first round. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they go do that and just kind of, prepare themselves. But I think right now they're comfortable with giving Walker that spot, which means Bakhtiari, and I know Matt LaFleur talked about, not closing the door on Bakhtiari, but I think we got to call a spade here. David Bakhtiari with his knee. They may feel good about it, but do you feel confident about it? Can you feel confident about it going forward with all the surgeries he's had on it, the draining of fluids? I know they're doing something different now, but can you still feel confident? And do you necessarily want to go into these season where you kind of have to manage reps and games with a highly paid left tackle, and especially at the left tackle position. Do you want to go in like, hey, we're going to play in this one, but maybe not next week? I don't think you can do that. And when you look at the amount of money you would save by moving on from Bakhtiari, hey, it's a big dead cap hit. I understand that. It's $19 million, okay? But if he's on this team, it's nearly 40. You're talking pretty much a $20 million cap savings. So I think Bakhtiari's gone. Walker's going to be the future left tackle. We got Zach at right. Elton's over at left guard. Now you got some decisions with center and right guard. Let's start with center, Josh Myers. It really felt like a lot of times this year that Josh Myers' best PR team was his own team, because you had coaches kind of singing the praises of Josh Myers with his play, how well he's doing and all that. And then you had, like the people watching games, like the analysts out there and saying, Pro Football Focus, like, And he had some good games out there. I just think it was the consistency factor of it. Now, this might have been Josh Myers' best season, but was it necessarily a great season? Was it a good season overall? He's entering the final year of his rookie deal. I don't think Green Bay is going to be in a rush to sign him to an extension. I think he's going to be on the team, but they might bring in some competition. They may draft a center and have their future center kind of already in place. I'd be a little shocked if they gave Josh Myers a contract extension this offseason. Kind of like, okay, we're going to let you play it out, play for a contract. See what you got. And you look at the history. I mean, Green Bay's kind of not been shy about, switching centers every few years. Maybe not, to the favor, not a favorite thing for quarterbacks to always kind of switch. And I know Aaron Rodgers kind of talked about that. It's like, hey, it'd be nice to have a center for a few years instead of every, new one every year, every couple of years. But Green Bay's shown that they're not shy to, hey, we're going to bring in somebody else. So Myers, I think he's got one more year, going to play one more year. Don't be surprised if Green Bay maybe drafts a guard for their future. Little protection back up there. The right guard now, you got John Runyon Jr. Okay, John Runyon Jr. is a free agent. John Runyon Jr. had a really good training camp in preseason. But in the regular season, had some issues, ups and downs. Sean Ryan was starting to get some reps. I don't think John Runyon Jr. is back. I don't think he's back. I think they're going to open camp with Sean Ryan as their starter, but I would not be surprised if Green Bay in the draft maybe targets a guard. But we know how they like their offensive linemen, right? They like offensive linemen that'll play tackle and guard, multiple positions. So maybe they identify a tackle in that first round or second or day two, but he's a tackle that can convert to guard. Playing those multiple positions. You play multiple positions on the line, you're already going to be on Green Bay's short list. So don't be surprised if they target somebody day one, day two, to maybe play or give Sean Ryan a battle for that right guard spot. Because I feel like if they were dead set, and Ryan was still getting some snaps coming in certain series, even in the postseason and such, but it felt like they weren't quite fully ready to commit to Sean Ryan to be that guy. I don't think they were quite ready there yet. If there was one position that I think that they're going to really try to maybe focus on early in the draft on this offensive line, it's that right guard. It's that right guard spot. And, with Yash probably on his way out, probably going to be looking for some starting opportunities, you got to find your backup tackle. Is that Caleb Jones? Could that be the massive Caleb Jones over there? You try to find that swing tackle that, if your starting left tackle goes out, you put him in there. Oh, nope, it's your starting right tackle. You can put him over there too. They have to figure out who's their main backup tackle, left and right. That swing tackle over there. That is a huge position. because you have one of your tackles go down, it kind of fluctuates your entire line. I know they were high on Luke Tenuta in the preseason training camp, got hurt. Maybe they still view him as a possibility over there. Is this going to be the end of Royce Newman, the Royce Newman era for the guard? I think so too. I think you're going to see a few new guys on that offensive line for Green Bay next year. Yash out. Royce Newman potentially out. John Runyon Jr. out. David Bakhtiari out. You're talking 3 to 4 offensive linemen who have logged some significant snaps for Green Bay over the years going to be out. Look for Green Bay to really address the offensive line in this draft. Maybe not a tackle right away like a lot of the mocks have them, but potentially a day two. Heck, maybe they still view as I'd struggle to see them moving Zach Tom to a guard, and I know he's played some snaps over there at guard. But I think you got to keep him over there. And maybe, you know what? Maybe they just keep Royce Newman for another year as a backup because he is under contract and he's kind of fairly cheap. He's got a cap hit of $1.2 million. Played a lot of snaps. Let's just keep him on the roster. That would maybe kind of help a little bit with the depth there. But I would be expecting Green Bay to pick up at least a couple of offensive linemen in this year's draft. But for now, I think you go into 2024 with Walker as your starting left tackle. You shake the hand of Dave Bakhtiari and you say thank you for your wonderful years of service. Best of luck on your future. We just can't, with that cap hit and with your uncertainty with your knee, we just can't take that risk. You got Elton over at the left side. Myers probably in his final year at center. Right guard's probably open. Sean Ryan, maybe the leader right now. And then Zach Tom holding the fort down at the right tackle position. And then you got to figure out is Caleb going to be your main backup swing tackle? He's a big dude over there. Could he be that guy? Could they be somebody else that they target in a draft? And then maybe targeting another interior lineman, center, guard in the draft as well to get that depth back up there. Because there could be some moving guys. There could be guys, lost via free agency. John Runyon and Yash, a couple of them right there. All right, let's take a quick break, our final break. Then picks and predicts time, brought to you by the Elbow Room. We'll get to those coming up in just a couple minutes. Just a few minutes to the top of the hour here. Let's get to some picks and predicts. Brought to you by the Elbow Ruben Eau Claire. Shout out to Garrett. Garrett is a diehard, big-time 49ers fan, so he's got to be feeling pretty good. Probably wasn't feeling pretty good in the first half there of the game yesterday, but got to be feeling pretty good here this morning. His team back in the big game over there. So we will update the standings and the picks on our website for our picks and predicts later on today. But let's make some picks right now for some NBA games tonight. All right. Let's start off. We've been talking about these two games here for a little bit this morning. Timberwolves taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Timberwolves 15-10 on the road, 32-14 overall. OKC 17-5 at home, 32-14 overall on the season 2. Both teams tied at top of this hotly contested Western Conference. I want to pick the Timberwolves. OKC, though, is good at home, has been really good at home, solid at home this year, 17-5. I'm going to say Oklahoma City wins. The line is at 2.5. I say they cover, but it's single digits. It's at that 2.5 line that I think OKC wins, but single digits. So let's go Suns versus the Heat. Suns versus the Heat. We've got Phoenix taking on the Heat at home. Phoenix 12-9 on the season. Miami 12-9 on the road, on the season. And then Miami 12-10 at home. So just 2 games above 500 at home. Miami is favored by 3.5 in this game. I'm going to go Phoenix. I don't know why. Call it a hunch. I'm going to go Phoenix in this one. And then finally, Milwaukee versus Denver. The first game with Doc on the sidelines for the Bucks here. You've got a Bucks team that's 11-9 on the road. First game of a 5-game road trip here. Denver also really good at home this year, 18-4. The line is Denver by 4.5. I think Denver wins, and I think they cover tonight. I'm going to roll with the Nuggets. I do think it'll be close for a little bit there. Team playing hard for their new coach and such. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with the Nuggets with this one, and I do think they cover. I think they cover on this one. All right. There you have it. Those are your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room. Coming up tomorrow, we will continue our consulting series here for the Pack. So we've done a couple of offense. We've done one defense. Let's do another defense. Let's take a look at the safeties tomorrow, all right? So a position that I think a lot of you would agree they got to overhaul. They got to bring in some dudes. Maybe watching Kyle Hamilton and some of the work he was doing with the Ravens yesterday. That's a guy I would love to have. But is there a guy like that in the draft this year? So we'll take a look at the safeties tomorrow. What's your beef Tuesday as well. So we'll get to that tomorrow. We'll talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal. Badger Hoops. Well, we'll get the latest rankings from them. Big game coming up this weekend against Purdue. Don't overlook Nebraska. Okay. Don't overlook them and eyeing up that Purdue game. Take care of your business against Nebraska first, then Purdue over there. So we'll talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up tomorrow too. Keep you posted on the latest on the defensive coordinator search for the Pack. We'll see if some new names start to surface today. I still feel like it's going to be another prediction here. I think by the end of the week we will know the new defensive coordinator for the Packs. So I will I'll keep you posted. All right. Make sure you're hitting me up on Facebook and Twitter. I'll try to stay on I'll try to stay on top of that as soon as they come through here. So any of these names kind of tripping your trigger right now? I mean, just 4 of them out there. The only one you probably really know is Brandon Stanley. Other ones you may not know too much about. Maybe that's why everybody's just kind of like, meh, don't know yet. Maybe you're waiting out to see if there's other more popular names out there, if you will. All right, shot clock is going to cut me off. So, hey, big thanks for everybody tuning in, participating in the program. Again, shout out to our good buddy Tom from across the pond, who's a diehard Lions fan. I think we got ourselves a division battle here for the next few years. They were close yesterday. We've been there for some heartache, I know, but maybe not. I mean, you guys were close for the first time. That stinks. All right, DP and Dan, they're up next. Have a good Monday. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.